So, for those who don't know me, hello. I'm Andrew Dubber. I'm the director of MTF Labs, and we're working very closely with the Industry Commons Foundation on this Just Data Week. You've heard a lot about it today. I'm not going to go into great detail, but it's an absolute pleasure to talk to Elisabeth. Elisabeth, we've spoken a couple of times, well, 3 times already so far, about a lot of these things. And I'm going to let you do a lot of the talking, but just to set the scene. So Elisabeth Sjöstrand is the R&D Manager for Ericsson. Now, I have a couple of questions from that line. First of all, Ericsson. Most of us probably think they know what that is. I feel like I used to, but I'm not quite sure what it is. What is Ericsson? Just fill us in on that.
You just touched the point that I hope to bring Ericsson into a little bit different context of what you normally hear. I mean, it's a fantastic company. There's a reason I've been there for 24 years. I've done a couple of things before that, actually, so you can calculate how old I am from that. To put it in a little bit different context and why I'm still around in the company, still after 24 years. So, and going back to question again, we did it before.
What is Ericsson? I guess is my first question.
Yeah. The first thing, I would like to take this angle. COVID. It feels quite far away now, quite distant, right? But still, it really hit us globally, and because it struck me. So that's how I am as a person. When I get passionate about something or touched by something, it becomes a little bit of a message and story for myself. And I just heard it really showed how important and critical social infrastructure the mobile networks really are. And that really hit me because I work with it every day. I'm an engineer, so I don't see that context every day. But that is also a little bit the reason why I would like to do this type of things, because trying to explain a bit more complex things, but more important, put it into context. I think that is important. So from that to be that important infrastructure, and most of the networks, I mean, the live network out today is 5G. And where I work now is Ericsson's recent initiative is to deploy in cloud, the radio access networks on cloud. And just to give you a little bit of a context, what's the difference? You have your mobile. One thing I often also say, but no one asked to me any longer, is that we're not doing any mobile phones any longer. That we know. It's the mobile network. So we are an infrastructure provider to the operators. I've been working with 2G, 3G, 4G, and now 5G. And going from voice, which was LT, or actually 4G, and now moving into 5G, it completely changed this, what we're talking about today, with this massive data. I mean, data is not new for us, and not AI either. But the ability to innovate and work with the data is slightly different. In that perspective.
Well, we're going to talk about innovation in a bit. I think one of the really interesting things that you said when we spoke earlier, you talked about this infrastructure, but you said it wasn't technological infrastructure, but societal infrastructure. Do you want to say a little bit what you mean by that? Yeah,
you should say, I mean, be connected in real time fundamentally have changed how we innovate and how we collaborate, how we produce and how we govern and live sustainable. I mean, that has been an important part of our company, but it all come together. And from that, our company, with our CEO, Börje, we said there are so many young companies with good ideas. There are so many young individuals with fantastic ideas, and we need to bring that in a more collaborative innovation, because we have more than 60,000 patents. So innovation is not new. Otherwise, we wouldn't be the tech lead company. But there is something different happening now, that we need to collaborate among to solving the challenges we have, using our technology for saving the planet and the challenge we have in the environment, for example. So that could be one of the collaboration that we...
That is really interesting, because you think of Ericsson, you think of this big data company, infrastructure company, and so on, and everybody says we're solving problems. I mean, that's what every company says that they're doing. But tell me about Ericsson for Good, because that is something that's there's a real flag in the ground on that.
Yeah, it serves actually two things. It's actually using our technology to really find these explorative. I mean, we need to find the new use cases and what we say, how to solve the problems. So there are initiatives, for example, take agriculture, to really utilize the environment, and the machines that we are using is from an environmental point of view. So that is one thing. When you can set sensors and collect data, you can predict things. That is one example. Mangrove, for example, that is very sensitive habitat. It's another example. But it also gives us as employees an ability to engage in these type of activities as well. So in the everyday work you have, but you can also be part of Technology for Good, as this initiative is called to and connected to. So I find that very interesting and broader, I think, than what not even everyone in Ericsson knows about it in that context. So a little bit my mission to spread that.
Just to give us a little bit of context of what we're dealing with here in Linköping Science Park. How many people are Ericsson here?
We're around 1,000 employees here, 1,200 with partners, but around 1,000 persons. And I think it's like 15,000 in Sweden. And then we have most of it in Kista, 13,000, and we are in Lund and Gothenburg. And then we are totally in around 100,000 in global Ericsson. And we have customers in 198 countries. I think it's like 200 countries or so, most of them. So it's a global company, and it's Swedish, so that makes me a little bit proud, because it's not that many companies that actually is still a Swedish company. So.
Especially of that size and that global. You lead the R&D team, but you talked about innovation. Is there a difference between those two things?
I would say no, but so I take this angle. We have our product portfolio, and we have our everyday customer deliveries, and that pressure. It's not so easy to be innovative as in the R&D team. I mean, we have the research department, but they don't think about the products, they think ahead, what we can do with our technology. But in the everyday, and that is what we said a little bit, so that is so important, that we get opportunities. So how can we bring in to be entrepreneurs as well, to catch those ideas? And that's where we also created this Ericsson Garage, which has existed for a while now, on R&D sites globally at Ericsson. It's a platform, an arena where we can meet and collaborate within Ericsson. We can try out things, but also collaboration with other local companies around these problems. So you can engage in that. But what I do personally, being R&D manager, is how to create and enable opportunity, because there is possibility to do it. But it's like investing in competence. It's easy to say I don't have time to learn because I have to deliver and work. But actually, when you are proactive and create that environment and create a little bit of a structure, and often when you say structure and process to innovative persons, they kind of, so that. And then I said, we just need minimum of infrastructure to create value of the ideas. Just that. We're not going to close it down, but we need somehow of an infrastructure. So that is a little bit how I see between the R&D. Try to get that in a little bit into the everyday. It's problem solving. And now I come into another subject that I'm passionate about, is change the view of an innovation. In a company as Ericsson, which is a tech company, you think about that's usually a person working in the research specific department. Very smart, and they come up with really, really complicated ideas.
When you say research, you mean engineering?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, when you do, when in Ericsson we have, that is maybe the same in other companies, but when we say research is a little bit the time frame and the focus you have. They are focused on exploring, not stricted about that it's supposed to be this and that product.
Right. Because you make that process sound very creative, which you don't imagine immediately. If you look, I'm going to fill a room with engineers, and then creativity is there somehow. How do you get that happening within that context?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, actually, what I've seen when it happened is that we have this room, a little bit like this room, a little bit, because I got the question. We have a specific room for what we call Ericsson Garage. One is open, where we can meet up with other like students that you don't have to have an ID card. And then, of course, we need to be in the red zone when we do more, when we open up and stuff. And then I got the question, we have a lot of conference room, why don't you take one of those? And I saw exactly what happened when people entered that, like myself. You bring your personality, and you bring your experience and your interest and your passion. It doesn't matter if you're from the research or the test department or where you are, and you meet up in that room. And I could just not say anything else that it makes such a big difference, actually. Right. And we have had a couple of students working. I think that has been one enabler, talking about that we are very busy with our customer deliveries, is to have these fantastic students on internship that can actually, we can collaborate, but they can help us to realize the ideas we have, which has been great.
Okay, so we're here in the context of talking about data and just data. And I mean, I often say that there are no companies that are not data companies anymore, but Ericsson is very much a data company. How do you respond to this idea of just data? How do you kind of think about data justice or these ideas of judicious, unbiased, safe and transparent in relation to essentially just moving data around, which is really what Ericsson seems to do. How do you think of just data?
And this is why it's so fantastic to get this opportunity to get here, is that you also get to read a little bit more around it from you every day. So I did. Just to put it into context. So I would like to come in from this angle, that from an Ericsson point of view, we look at on the two different domains of data. One is when we are the infrastructure for another problem that another company has. That is actually through sensors, for example. So you just collect, another company collect the data and they do something about it. Not necessarily we. We are just the provider of the data that goes in. So that is one aspect of it. Another aspect is about our operators, where we wouldn't, of course, as an operator provider, as a company, the data that the operators have, we are of course interested of that. How is the mobile networks behaving? So by operator you mean? Operators, mobile operators. Mobile companies. Mobile companies, yes. And historically, they have, of course, that is also common. They have not been keen on, I mean, AI and data-driven development is not new. I mean, if I may say so, old technology, but access to the data for us being in this context in mobile networks is that we have not had access to the operators' data. They have been very strict on leaving that out. Sure. But they have also seen through 5G that this is an innovative platform. So the first AI-based feature in Ericsson we did here in Linköping in my team, where we did a proof of concept in 4G. We wanted to launch it in 5G, but it was easy to do it in 4G because of the antenna system is not so complex as a 5G. And that was how typically traffic or a mobility feature, which is really essential. All of you know how annoying it is if you drop a call. Sure. So the ANR feature, the handover decisions are very important. So what we did is that we checked if we could use the operator data and actually train the model and actually predict when to make a handover decision, which is the best frequency and the best cell to move your equipment or hand over to. If that were better than the feature we have have today. And we show, because why did we want to do that? It saves a lot of time. Because the mobile phones is sending measuring data all the time up to the mobile networks, and that is why we did it.
Right.
So, and that was 2018, not that long time ago.
Sure.
So what we now want to do when we are moving into what is now 5G, maybe I should.
Well, one thing about that you said to me that I thought was interesting, I wanted to pick up on, is you said. And I made a note to ask you about this because I think it's really interesting. You said 3G is people, 5G is machines. Yeah. What did you mean by that?
That was good timing because I know exactly that played into what I was
I've
thinking about. Wow, we met more than 3 and talked now. So it used to be, human-to-human communication we talk about, and I just want to tell a little bit more how difficult it is. Sometimes I get the question, what is the killer app for 5G?
Right.
Elena Miranda used to ask me that. And I said, we don't know yet. There are new use cases we need to explore, but we need to explore them together with other actors to do that. So why I'm saying that no one predicted that Netflix would be the killer app for 4G. No one predicted that one. They thought it would more video from 3G. We could do some video calling, and then it should be more video. That was not what happened. So coming back to 5G, what is really happening here is that one of the key things is, of course, things go faster, but it's the latency that is a little bit the key here. Meaning that we can handle massive amount of data. And you know that as Internet of Things, and that is what we call with the sensors. You can have a lot of sensors. They are cheap, long battery time, etc., etc. So you can handle massive of equipment or the devices like mesh. Is that the English mesh container, for example? You can trace that, and that sort of thing has been a couple of cases on that one. The other end, I would say, is the 3. Of course, it's more by broadband, but that we know already. So in that case, not so interesting, I think, is the critical machine type communication. And that serves use cases as remote surgery, autonomous driving, and that sort of thing, where the latency response time is really critical. Security is really important. So totally slightly different. That's why I say the use cases actually drive a little bit what we are going to explore. What is the problem? We don't do all of them. It depends a little bit of the target we want to achieve. So in that, coming from human to human, talking in the mobile phones, going to data, and there are machines communicating, and by that also even more data, and that has accelerated the AI for us as well. The vision we have with the cloud deployment of the 5G. I used to work in the embedded system before. 2020, Ericsson launched these cloud radio access networks to deploy in the cloud environment. And the difference here is that when you have an embedded system, like the 5G networks out today, is that they are built on the purpose-built principles, meaning our hardware, our software, tightly integrated and perfectly. But with that comes constraints. Scalability is not a scale you can do with servers. Right. Do you want to break in with a question now?
No. I'm making a mental note.
If I talk,
everything you say makes me think of another question. I'll come back to them.
Where were I? I was in the middle of that story. What was that story now?
Scalability.
Yeah. Thanks. Excellent. So that was a test.
One of us should be.
Yeah, very good. But it really comes down where we saw that telecommunication and IT, communication, the infrastructure, scale in and scale out, and not only adding more and more service to be able to handle the data, but actually, and just translate that into a concrete scenario is that for an operator, for example, having the hardware, because now we can actually have we decouple our software to a specific hardware, meaning that our software can actually run on any hardware, for example, in a data center. And that enables the scalability for an operator. So if you have a stadium event, an evening, you know how it is. Everybody want to make movies, call and all that. But next day it's totally empty. And balance the hardware, it's very expensive. Talking about sustainability, you have a lot of hardware that is not used. And then you have a lot of people there that are not so happy because they cannot call because it's occupied, it's busy.
Right.
But now, with this deployment, you can actually use the hardware for something else. And that creates opportunities. But that also put constraints on security and security. We talked about that with data and how we saw on that. So
yeah, security must be a huge thing for Ericsson. I mean, if there was a target for cyber attacks, that kind of infrastructure would be fairly top of the list, I think. I mean, that must be something. I mean, I don't know if it keeps you awake at night, but it's something that certainly needs to be a priority with what you do.
And I was thinking about that and talked to some people a little bit more about it. And as we already, and when you do mobile networks, we have been in early days since forever we have been working with standardization and 3GPP standards. And all from the beginning, security has been really important just because of that. Of course, evolving over the time, the challenges become different. So we need to come up with new solutions. But what that means is that we have our SIM card. It's built in already in our DNA and culture. So when we move into the cloud, that's the top priority, and it's included in our DNA and way of thinking. And to give an example is that, for example, a Wi-Fi system, if you compare a cellular network, is of course cheap and easy and very easy to set up and so on. But the mobility is not so good, and security is not at all good. When we talk about cellular, we have authentication, there is SIM card, you know how it is with your mobile phones. So it's already built into that in that context. But of course, moving into our future where we see as the feature I'm talking about in our system actually, that you can actually create your own applications for mobility and traffic in the future. We're not there yet. That would put constraints if you're going to extract specific, a little bit like Netflix is doing when you look at TV. What are you doing? Where are you looking, etc., etc. Should you combine that? And that is something we need to consider the future on when we're moving ahead on this journey. And I would say someone talked about this with technology and people and solution, and that is a little bit also something that I'm very passionate about, to find the minimal viable, that there needs to be a need. And when you find that golden circle between the technology and the people and commercialization or business, that's where you find the spot. And I think it's so cool when that happens, because then it's like a relationship. When it's easy. Even in that context.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Now, I introduced you as the head of R&D, which I kind of understand. I can picture that in my head. I know what that is. But you have a new role as well, which you've explained to me twice. Can you try again?
Yeah, the reason is that it's not new in that sense. It's just a different level of focus, but it's still in the same context. So in that sense, so it's...
But
it's
layer 3 is in there. Software design is in there. Talk about layers, and then we can talk about what this new role is. We are now, as a little bit that we have been into, is our journey now towards cloud. I mean, that is something that we see. That will not replace the embedded system. So it's not like now we're rolling out. They need to coexist, of course. But it's really, it's a challenge because it's not only a technology transformation, it's even more culture and business transformation. Because you need to think about how are the customer, for example, our operators or the operators, how are they going to create new revenue when they get these opportunities to steer the networks in a different way? So it's a complete transformation in that sense, a culture transformation. In terms of the traffic management particularly? Yeah,
well, the traffic, but also the data as such, because that could also be different from 4G and to 5G, is that before it was operators. So that has changed for us as environment for us as working at Ericsson. Before it was one segment, operators, that's our customers. But as you can see, the cross industries that the 5G opens up is like mining, it's like healthcare, it's like autonomous driving. It's everywhere, any segment. So suddenly we have the customers could be anywhere in the future, and that is both. That is really thrilling. I want to see what will happen with that. So that's a little bit the answer why I'm still here. It's come something new that that sounds really difficult. But we really, as a company, as all companies, if you're going to be a technology leader, you have to do new things, and we are of course very challenged. We are in the top of or number one, but we are very challenged as a company, and we need to continue to dare to do new things in a different way and find out new ways. Otherwise, we will not be relevant. So that journey goes on, and that's really a bit.
That learning thing takes us kind of full circle to what was talked about a lot this morning. Which was about, I guess, you've been at Ericsson, you said 24 years, and I guess the things that you needed to know then are not the things that you necessarily need to know now. What do you wish young people were being taught so that they can join your team and be part of what you do? Is it different? Is it? I'm making assumptions.
Exactly. That's what I'm a little bit thinking, because I would really put into the context that the students I meet, because I often connect with students, with interns and support that we have thesis workers, and I kind of enjoy that, finding the talents. They are fantastic. I'm so impressed every year. Girls and guys. Actually, when we have our summer internship, for example, it's like even more girls than guys, and which is good from a diversity point of view. But I don't necessarily see that is so important. But what we can see is that they don't get, of course, access to the environment. And now I come to another passionate of my area is large-scale software development, because I find that really cool, because it's really difficult. And then leadership-wise and organizational-wise, if you're two teams working with a product, it's not that easy. I don't want to put it small company, big company. I just want to put a different flavor, because often you have the picture of Ericsson, the big, slow, and I would not be in the company if that would be fully true.
Sure. When you say large-scale software development, just so I understand that correctly, do you mean lots of people writing code?
Yeah.
Right.
And
so managing that.
Yeah, managing that you need to be able to, how do you verify, how do you systemize, how do we commit the code? It's amazing how to get that around, and how you steer as a leader and organizational wise. It's really challenging to do that. And talking about the journey ahead and the new job is where we are heading now. It puts really a challenge to the leadership, being a leader in a different way. But coming back to your question, if we want to have something different from the student, they are really talented. So in that way, no. And then they are not so used to being, they have, in software development, for example, they have not seen that, they build the small parts and then they come and see a bigger context. But then they get to learn it. So if you have ability to learn, that is what I look for. The person, if you have the base, you have the drive, and you're curious, you can build. Then you learn when you come to Ericsson, because you don't learn that in school, right, in that sense. So you started at Ericsson as an engineer. You're now managing a team. How much of what you do now is about people, and how much of it is about engineering? Oh, I would say I'm not writing any code any longer. There are others that are doing that a lot better than me. But I would say, that's a good question. It's like a little bit like 50-50 in that sense. So again, for me, it's been important to be in the engineering environment and operational active, being part of the journey, the strategies, and technically, then I don't need to be in the detail. I'm not a micromanager person. I have two good people they know what to do. But now I lost the thread there. What we talked about.
About
the 50-50. But so very small part. Thank you. Late in the evening. So, I mean, small part of the manager role, or I would say leadership, is different from management. Manager, I mean, salaries and that stuff you need to do and develop people. I kind of like when I see people grow. And I see me as the sports metaphor. It's very easy. I never played football, but I can understand. You have your how can you get them to, even if their wings are like this? If I see someone that can actually reach a little bit more, and that is really fun. That is what I like a little bit with leadership. I can grow the talents, because key roles we don't find directly on the streets, so we have to be able to create them ourselves in that context. So more of engineering and the products and the technical stuff that we talk about, and leadership is of course important, because someone need to lead us in this one. So it's very important you don't get too, I mean, I find capabilities, personality that you a little bit unafraid to lose your face. I mean, when it's hard, say it's hard. When you don't know, you don't know. I can say what I don't know. That is also information, and I feel that lands very well. At least what I see in my team, that they know this is, but they trust that a little bit, because if I start to run around so I always go down to myself and see, do I believe in this? And then I need to find something, because otherwise I cannot. I need to talk the talk and walk the talk.
Yeah, for sure.
That's important to me.
Well, it's one of the things that you've talked in this talk has been you've said the word passion a couple of times, and that you're passionate about something we're passionate about. Just sort of to finish, without wanting to sound like an inspirational quote meme off Instagram or anything like that, but you have talked about passion quite a lot in our conversations. How do you think about how that relates to a job writing software for a big data company? Where does passion come in for you?
I think to me, and I think my personal view on it is that you can either be very passionate about the writing the code or a product, and be very about this specific product. I think I like the problem solving and the people. I mean, so fantastic colleagues. I must say that sometimes I kind of zoom out a little bit and wow, so many nice, good colleagues. But of all the competence and how much expertise there actually are in the company, I think it kind of empowers and creates that passion, I guess. But I think as a person, I need to find that passion somehow. So when I get I learned from now, I have done that quite many times now, kind of jump into something that is totally new and we don't really know, and it looks a little bit hard, and I kind of like that. So I realized I don't just end up there. I kind of find it, and I think that from there I go a little bit with the creativity, because that creates a room for me to be creative together with a group of people, because you cannot do it on your own. We come to the large scale. That you have to do it together in that sense.
Well, that seems like a perfect lesson to leave it on, which is the whole reason we're here, is to bring these different things together, the creativity, the technology, the engineering, and the thinking, to address grand challenges, and particularly this one of data justice. I'm very aware that Frederick wants to say something. So is there a microphone we can get up to the back for a question, please? But before we do the question, Elisabeth Sjöstrand, thank you so much for your time. It's been really fascinating. Thank you
for inviting me. Thank you.
Frederick.